All right, hi Dre, hi Christopher and Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. Today's date is April 28th, 2013, and we're here to discuss, the Occupy Wall Street movement. Just before we get started, I want to let you know about two quick things. The first is that right now this conversation is being recorded, and after the recording is completed, we'll be uploading this video to the internet to our YouTube channel. Is that okay with both of you?
Absolutely.
All right, great. And then on top of that, here at Vonvo, we're all about our discussion staying both civil and valuable. We don't want there to be any personal attacks against one another. Are you guys fine with that ground rule as well?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, great. So then let's get our conversation started. Would we mind just giving a quick background of each other before we get into the actual topic? Dre, do you want to just give a quick background of yourself and why you're so passionate about this topic? And then Christopher, you could go after.
Well, my name's Dre, and I'm from Brooklyn. And I got involved with the Occupy Wall Street down in New York City, in Zuccotti Park. And I happen to live in Brooklyn. And I was very passionate about, what's going on with our government and police brutality. And I was able to actually be in Zuccotti Park during the, occupation. So while I was there, I actually met Chris. Chris came with 5 individuals all the way from Michigan. And that's where I met Chris. And ever since then, we've been really great friends. And I just think it's a wonderful story. And that's basically how I met Chris through the Occupy movement.
Great. And Chris, do you want to just give a quick background of yourself? And then Lisa as well.
Yeah, my name is Chris Wamhawk. I'm passionate about Occupy Wall Street because I've been in social several years and just watched the system habitually get worse and worse. I myself ended up getting laid off actually on the week of Christmas in 2010, right before the events in Occupy Wall Street. And then after just watching all these things happen, watching the banking system, understanding what happens with CDOs, seeing how many things are askew and how many things need to be addressed, and seeing that we're at a point where only the people can address them. Just been all in on Occupy Wall Street ever since, and after the encampments got raided, we went out there for Thanksgiving here for Michigan and met Dre, and we've all been plugging in ever since.
Great. So, would you guys mind just sort of giving, for those who don't know, just like a quick background on the Occupy Wall Street movement? I mean, what it was really all about and what it's continuing to be all about. Dre, you want to sort of start with that, and then we'll sort of ease into some of the other topics we wanted to go over?
If I could, I'd like for Chris, because I think he's more versed.
Yeah. No problem. So, Christopher, you mind just going over sort of the movement as a whole, and talk about that for a bit for those that don't understand?
All right. Well, the Occupy Wall Street protest started over the bank collapse of 2008. You can watch really great cited information like Inside Job and documentaries down what happened well. But what happened, it was in response to these banks taking CDOs and doing credit default swaps and holding a whole bunch of illegal procedures that led to massive foreclosure, instances of homelessness, and really sending our economic system into a. None of these individuals received any kind of legal consequence, even though they were breaking walls. And Occupy Wall Street started in Zuccotti Park. About 60 people camped out the first night, and then Officer Bologna really kind of made it go much more viral when the police started pepper spraying some women that were in lockdown. The Occupy movement spreading out in parks and taking in camping in a voice of the 99% that the people have to change. And since then, Occupy has really kind of went on as kind of like an umbrella or a networking where these instances where people see something wrong, they use Occupy as a way to voice that. The things they're passionate about, the things it's become a microphone. Our mic checks that we say, that's literally what it is. It's an echo of all of us supporting each other through these loud mic checks, these different issues now. And Lisa can probably speak to our more recent things with the hurricane relief and Occupy Out Wall Street is doing now.
Yeah, definitely. Lisa, please let us know what you've been doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as the Occupy Sandy stuff, which is kind of course, part of the whole picture. I was down there for the last 2 months in New York, working between Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Rockaway, went into even Jersey a little bit here and there in Long Island, but those are all the affected areas. And it's been a really amazing experience. Occupy Sandy has been doing some really, really amazing work. A lot of these groups are not only doing relief work, but they're also turning it into turning a lot of places into gardens, teaching people how to live a more sustainable life going forward, and helping them get back on their feet, but with tools that will arm them, to build to do for themselves in the future and for their community. It's pretty amazing. I also got a flyer with Occupy the Pipeline when I was there, so that was cool to touch base with them. They've been doing some really good things. All these, arms of Occupy are still going, and they're going really strong. Strikes, there was a ton of things going on in New York all the time. There always is. The information is out there. Find it. You want to be involved, be involved. Guitar meters. There's so much going on. It's great. So you can really, and even here in Kalamazoo, I've been doing a lot of work with Occupy Kalamazoo lately. So to those who think that Occupy movement's dead, back.
Right. So, Dre, did you want to add anything on top of that?
Well, as you can see, individuals like Chris and Lisa really involved, and the movement hasn't gone anywhere. The movement itself is not about an encampment. It's really about the people rising up and holding our representatives responsible, finding solutions, bypassing the representatives, and for the people to actually find solutions for ourselves, because we're not being represented anymore. Occupy Wall Street, again, it's evolved. There are so many groups that are tackling so many issues. It's just truly amazing, the awakening that occurred through all of this. By the encampment itself, it was a big fiasco, and it was covered by the media, but it has just gone way beyond an encampment. And it's individuals like Chris, like Lisa, so many others that right now are doing tremendous things that are really impressive and hopefully will change the way things are.
Right. So that you bring up an interesting point that I was going to ask about. So the idea is that this did not ultimately, was it in the beginning that this was just strictly about the banks, or has it evolved past that over time, and in the beginning it was just about the banks? What has it all, how did it sort of turn into all these other different topics that you're now covering? Christopher, do you want to go into that?
I feel like I can probably speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, go, please.
The something that we should make as a clarification. We participate in Wall Street and Occupy, and are participants in that, but really can't speak for that as an organization. I just want to kind of clarify that, so it doesn't seem like we're trying to speak for all of Occupy in any instance. This is our personal perspective as participants in Occupy. Just wanted to put that out there. But I feel like the way they did initially start this encampment in Zuccotti Park started about the banks. But what started as a result of that action, this opportunity for people to stand up and say the things that they see going wrong, because there's so many things going wrong in so many communities. Each community has its own individual problem. So Occupy wasn't really, Occupy kind of turned into this opportunity not to speak out against one specific or specific areas, but as a way for the individual to speak out against things that are happening in their communities and their areas. For instance, here in Kalamazoo, we had the worst inland oil spill in U.S. history in 2010 with the Enbridge company. Even right now, the EPA is giving this company orders to be cleaning up our river, our Kalamazoo River, which many of us grew up with, and they're refusing to do it. So while we do have banks and we do have foreclosures, and we just overturned a foreclosure here yesterday, those things are happening, but we also have this massive oil spill happening. And Occupy became an opportunity for the people to not rely on the EPA, not rely on the DNR, not rely on these organizations that aren't enforcing it, and actually be the change ourselves, as Gandhi has so eloquently put it.
Right. Dre, do you want to add anything on top of that?
Well, like Chris said, I can't speak personally for the Occupy movement. There's one thing that's been said: it's a leaderless movement. However, there are a lot of leaders, and I specifically invited Chris to come to your forum to share, because he's an individual that actually is, almost full-time involved in the activism, along with Lisa. And again, yes, not one person can speak for Occupy. However, there are individuals who do a lot of activism and are coordinating with groups and doing direct actions all over the United States. And basically, that's the gist of that. But I think Chris is very special, and you can see his hat. It says 70 on there, and that's because Chris is bitter 70. I would like Chris to go into a little bit about what that represents and what that means for the people watching.
Yeah, go ahead, Christopher.
Well, the hat bitter 70. There's a phrase, "I am bitter 70," in participation, saying for individual Tim Christopher. He actually just got out of prison last week and made a civil disobedient bid, accumulating almost $1.8 million, saving 22,000 acres of land in an auction. And so other people have done similar.
Utah Red Rock, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was Utah Red Rock, the BLM, that Tim saved. And so we, with having what happened to oil spill here, and also having what's happening with fracking here in Michigan, we found Tim to be very inspiring, and so other people here in Michigan have made CD bids on a smaller increment amount to try and offset that. And so far, it's stopped 150 acres up in the Aramac County in UP.
Right. So what I was going to ask you guys is, what do you think in the end people are entirely misunderstanding about your guys' movement. Lisa or Chris, do you want to maybe discuss that concept of the misunderstanding taking place?
Well, it's, you know, I know what you think. I mean,
All right. I would say that probably some of the larger misconceptions about Occupy. The first one, that we're violent or that we have any intentions on being the conventional idea of terrorists in any way, or the idea that we're going to be throwing rocks through windows. Instances in Oakland and in Seattle. If you follow those stories, you'll see that there was also great controversy to the idea that there were infiltration and there were people causing Occupy to look that way. And certainly you look at Occupy en masse and some of that propaganda film to see that they're trying to frame us in this light where we're these violent, radical, blow things up kind of people. And it's not. Occupy is working class people. It's people who have lost their homes. People that are on social security. It's people that are in retired professors. It's active professors. It's psychologists. It's social workers. It's union workers. It's construction workers. It's laid off. It's laid off factory workers. It's single moms. It's a whole bunch of average people that believe in nonviolent revolution. And the reason that we're saying that we believe in that is because we have a government that believes more in corporate profits than it does for its people's rights. And then I would also say the other misconception is that it's dead. If you look at what's happening with Occupy Sandy and all of the boroughs, and also in New Jersey, and what they're doing there, and you look at the struggles that are happening there, if you look at what's happening in the pipelines across the country, up in Canada, and if you look at what happened with Strike Debt, where they've eliminated over $1 million of client debt, we're very far from debt. It's just the media is not covering. And then if you look at that,
people occupy even the Illuminators and then the Overpass Brigade, and there are tons of things going on. There's so many affinity groups, so many arms. There's, yeah, absolutely. Far from that.
And I feel like it's very important also to say that this goes way beyond Occupy. If you look at what's happening with the First Nations, I don't know more. You look at the Arab Spring and what's happening there. You look at the struggles that are happening in Greece.
It's all over the world. It's all over the world.
Yeah.
It's all over the world.
Occupy is a group, but it's a group that's part of something larger that's happening all over the world right now. So, yeah.
Right. Dre, do you agree with each of that, or do you want to add anything on top of it? Or I'll go to next question if you want.
Well, again, just to reiterate what Chris said, yeah, I mean, Occupy is worldwide, and again, it's alive, it's well, it's thriving, it's evolving, becoming sophisticated, and I think this scares the powers that be that don't have the interests of their people at heart. So I guess you can go on and ask some more questions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to talk about.
Right. So what I was going to ask next is, what do Occupy members want to see happen right now here in America, and how does it get done? Christopher, you want to talk about that? Can you maybe lay out some of the action items or plans that need to get set into action in order for some of the objectives that you guys want to actually take place?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We had a little bit of feedback there.
Yeah.
It's okay. My question was what do Occupy Wall Street members, what do they want to see take place? What do they want to see happen here in America? And what sort of action items or things need to occur in order for you to, reach your objectives and reach your goals?
Well, I, to answer that question, like I do got to emphasize that kind of each of the occupies reflect their individual communities. For Occupy Wall Street, the the goal of the folks in Wall Street might be somewhat different than the goals in Occupy Kalamazoo or in Occupy Detroit or Occupy Chicago, Occupy LA. It works in a different focus. It doesn't work all top down. It works bottom up. So each of these own cities and each of these own spots are going to come up with their goals and what kind of work they've got energy for and what they're going to work into. So I can't really speak for too many other groups other than Occupy Kalamazoo, but I feel comfortable saying with Occupy Kalamazoo that we're very outspoken about environmentalism. We want to see not just divestment in schools like what's happening with the 350-day campaign in some cities, literally a full commitment to get off of fossil fuels, look at utilizing some of the amazing things that are happening in other countries with these high-powered solar trains. There's technology for using recycled waste that they can capture the carbon output so that it has almost no greenhouse effect. And there are other countries that are doing these things. And getting these things in place is an opportunity to create jobs and kind of make economic recovery. Also with that, and what is with the inspiration of Occupy Wall Street in the first place is disregarding the corporate power. At this point, the bottom 40% of the country contributes to negative 2% of the global GDP that comes from America. We're literally so indebted that we count against our GDP at the end of the year. And the bottom 80% only contributes to 2% of the GDP. That is such a disproportionate figure. If you look at just what's happening since the 1970s, if the corporate power from these CEOs and all these people that are in charge of the country would have stayed with minimum wage, if those things would have grown parallel like they were supposed to, our minimum wage would be over $20 an hour. It didn't. They've continually cut down the average consumer, middle-class America, impoverished America, while these CEO profits soared. So one of the goals that has to come from everybody is to start getting that back and putting this power back to the people. And that you see that with corporate personhood, and you see that, and what poses a way to be fighting these things is to get involved in community. Is to start out small, just like Occupy is doing, for local communities to get together. We really can't fix the country until we're willing to fix our own backyards. We really can't fix anybody else until we're really willing to fix ourselves in the mirror. So I know for myself, what I hope we see as goals is for people to start owning that, for people to go just down the street and start volunteering for an hour a week, or take 5 minutes a day to do some Facebook posts. Take 5 minutes a day to read some alternative media and see what people that are on the streets and that aren't getting paid by a company to write about that company have to say about it. And start out with these small steps and start helping us take this power. And with that, I'll yield. I think that's probably a lot of a response.
Right. So, I mean, you bring up a few different items that I could kind of hit on, but I guess I'll start with, the first question I would ask is like, so do Occupy Wall Street members think that corporations are bad, or do they just think that, too big to fail is bad? Just ultimately, is it bad management in these large corporations that you guys, have a problem with? Would you guys mind speaking about that? Because I want to, and then I'd like to also go into like, media coverage of you guys. But would you mind touching on that first, so that people like really understand where you're coming from, and you can clear the record for those that we were talking about before misunderstand what you're about?
Well, I think one problem, Lisa, you can go right after this. I just wanted to say that one problem was, while the encampment was happening and we actually had a lot of media, prime time spotlight on the movement, didn't have like three particular things to say. There wasn't a scripted list or one particular grievement that we were, concerned about. Because, like Chris said, Occupy starts in your community. There's not one issue that people that were involved or became involved with Occupy are trying to tackle. So it was kind of fragmented. For example, if all of us would have had a specific agenda or talking point, it would have been a little easier. But the fact that, there's so many things wrong, it kind of like the fragmentation kind of diluted the conversation or the attention span of the audience, of the people. So, I think that's one big issue. For me, looking back, 2020 hindsight, I would have said, I think there are a few particular things that can be done to change the way things are. For example, campaign finance reform. Again, there's groups like Move to Amend or Money Out, People In. Lobbyists. Lobbyists write the laws. So the laws are not in the interests of the people. They're in the interests of the corporations. So again, that the fragmentation, that we didn't have specific talking points, kind of diluted the media attention. But again, like if you look at Chris in Kalamazoo, you had Enbridge, a company that had the largest oil spill in an American river. Chris, that's one particular issue that Chris is passionate about and doing work currently on. Fracking, another issue. Basically, as far as the media, I think America has a very short attention span, and that's a big problem. How many people suffer from ADHD? I don't know if it's because of the food we eat or, that's a problem as far as the media.
Lisa, do you want to say something?
Well, regarding like corporations, I don't know if I can speak about like what Occupy Wall Street feels necessarily, but I can tell you what I feel like, and I feel like I am sick and tired of corporate welfare. People are talking a lot about like, oh, get a job, or like you're on welfare, and like work harder, people on welfare deserve it. Stuff like that really makes me upset. Because like, what about corporate welfare? If you look at the numbers, it is staggering what we pay in corporate welfare. Stop fighting each other. Start fighting the right one. Okay? Like, start addressing that problem. These breaks, these tax evaders, these bailouts for banks, all of this is just. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And I feel like, why are special interests, why are corporations getting these breaks, and we are, working our lives away and slaves, and we're slaves to this, and they're living the life they want. I don't know. Corporations need to be held accountable. They need to, when there's, when bad things happen, people need, Exxon, BP, look at that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They're saying in Mayflower, everything's okay. You're kidding me. I'm talking to people in Mayflower. Everything is not paid. Oil is not cleaned up. They need to be held accountable. BP needs to be held accountable. Enbridge needs to be held accountable. You're kidding me. I'll pass.
Right. Christopher, do you want to add anything on top of that?
Well, I would agree. America does, when you talk in context to the media and how these things are covered, I think Mayflower is a perfect example of the lack of coverage that you see in necessary issues in media.
There were people that it happened that oil sprang. There were people that it happened and they didn't even know it was happening because it wasn't being covered. The people that lived there didn't even know there was a spill at first.
And could say that here about Kalamazoo too. Again, we had the largest largest oil spill in inland oil spill in U.S. history, and a majority of people in our city of 70,000 don't know that our city had the largest inland oil spill in U.S. history. And you look at other issues that are happening in other cities. You look at the amount of foreclosure that's happening across the country, and then you look at the context of how it's happening, and you find out that 85% of these foreclosure cases where people have been evicted out were actually done under a legal pretense because they never had the original title because these banks did these mediocre. Media not highlighting this is become a huge issue in this country, especially with this pension span, because people miss these facts by knowing things. For instance, about the media, that 6 companies own 90% of everything you read, write, and watch. And that's what's important about alternative media, because when you have these 6 companies that own everything, you also go into the homework and see that they're linked to all these companies that are doing all of these terrible things. That's where it comes back to people, and that's why it's important with community. You got to know your neighbor's name and be able to talk to them and say, hey, I found this out. What do you find out? Because there are so many things going wrong, you can't have 2 people solve everything. You can't have 5 people solve everything. There's too many issues. What becomes important about community is that you get enough people working together, and you get enough of a bond to work with your neighbor next to you, the person down the street next to you, that you can feel like you can trust that person and say, hey, you figure out what's happening here. I'm going to figure out what's happening over here. We're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to do something about this. Because when you see, for example, what happened with the banks in 2008, the government did not hold them accountable. You see what happened when we went to the war in Iraq and said that there were weapons of mass destruction, and we went and killed tens of thousands and thousands of people over something that turned out to not be real. You look at things where you have oil spills where people are not being held accountable, or the Mayflower where they're not going to hold the company that had the pipeline first accountable because of the technicality of the pipeline. You have all of these instances, or the boroughs where you have these politicians talking about crediting all these volunteers that did a great job, but they're getting ready to have bulldozers and kick some of these people out that are trying to help each other. It becomes important to start sending the message with media that we have to be the media now. We have to start sending this information to each other. And if we understand that there's a short attention span, it's on us to take the ownership responsibility to make sure that we're fitting the things into 140 characters and that we're catering to whatever the attention span, whatever the learning ability is, to those around us, so that we can convey the message to each other. Because we've got to get each other working together. That's the only way these things get better.
Right. So
We are 99%. That's a lot, you know? That's a lot of people. Yeah. Get together. Sorry.
right. No, so I was just going to say, I mean, ultimately for trying to do these different things, working together, trying to give people a voice, I mean, do you guys think that a forum such as a Vonvo would allow, Occupy to actually get their real message across and not have this sort of skepticism about what you guys are doing, but actually, show that what you're trying to do is, proving right and is only for the proper cause?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can see just with being able to get these together, it's an opportunity not only to. I think what becomes important in this second phase for Occupy and what this can be a useful tool for is to start understanding that it's not going to be just Occupy that fixes America, and it's not going to just be a Democrat, it's not going to just be a Republican, it's not going to just be a part of the Tea Party, it's not going to be just part of the Green Party, it's not going to be a bunch of firemen, it's not going to be a bunch of policemen, and it's not going to be a bunch of city commissioners. It's going to have to be a whole bunch of everybody. It's going to have to be people with different perspectives, and I think what is exciting about this platform is it's an opportunity for people with different perspectives to get it together, people in different areas to get together and come and have conversations, come to consensus, and get a chance to talk about some different issues at once on one platform. So in that sense, yeah, I think this could be very useful, and I'm excited to see where that could go.
I just want to say, Occupy is like a great awakening. The consciousness of America, was in its grasp, and ever since then, it's just been a tremendous upheaval in activism. Even though there always has been, it's just that, like Chris said, there's 6 corporations that own and box 90% of all the things we purchase and have. For example, there's 200 million Americans that are chasing 7% of the GDP. There's 40 families that own 30% of all the wealth. I mean, and then you have all these side issues that the media addresses, especially when there's political races, about immigration, the problem of immigration and jobs. When the fact is, 1%, who are they? The 1% are those 40 families. Let's identify who they are. The 99% are the 200 plus million Americans that are waking up every morning chasing 7% of the wealth. That's the problem. And if Occupy had one thing to say, well, that would be one thing that they should say.
Christopher or Lisa, do you want to add anything on top of that, or?
I'm good, I think.
So what I was going to ask then next is, Christopher, do you want to talk about some of the things that we spoke about earlier about, like your either May Day or this national gathering that you guys are doing? Do you want to kind of tell people about that, please, for a bit?
Yes, absolutely. I'll start with the brief history that in July of 2012, Occupy Philly called together the first Occupy National Gathering. We actually were there, participated. It was 5 days of direct action, learning, and coming together. And then it was a very, very, very cool experience to be a part of. We learned a lot. Learned a lot about response from police and federal park rangers on the first day. But it was a good learning experience, and we got to meet with people, get to know each other, and just kind of meet and greet as the Occupy movement. This second year, the Occupy National Gathering is going to be August 21st to 25th in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And we wanted to do some separate things kind of this year. We're working with First Nations and Idle No More. They're potentially working on bringing a form of treaty ceremony. I don't want to say too much about that because we don't have a lot of things set in stone. But we're also working with Move to Amend. They're going to be participating and planning some things. We're going to be working with the United States Social Forum, who in 2010 in Detroit had 20,000 people there talking about social justice and ending the industrial complex and racism. They're going to be here presenting as an official PMA. We also are going to be working and interacting with the Alliance for Global Justice, who's going to be participating in another event later in November. Working with, there's a lot of groups that we're participating with that are going beyond the lines of just the Occupy movement and just trying to call everybody together. Some of the things that we wanted to include a summer tour that's going to actually be a way for people to participate for a summer-long tour going across the USA on their way to National Gathering, providing not only a free way to travel to National Gathering, but actually a way to kind of go from city to city, find out what their issues are, speak with them, talk about some of the things that are happening with Occupy Sandy and help with the supply drive like that. We're going to have a strike test there talking about how the average consumer can get involved and start erasing the debt coming after everybody in this group. We want the environmental groups to come together, whether you're in tar sands, whether you're in fracking, whether you're in coal mine removal, whether you're in ethanol treatment, or whether you're with nuclear waste. We want to talk about ways that all of these groups that are fighting the fossil fuel industry can come together and put aside whatever their differences are, whether they want a moratorium or whether they want a ban, how we can empower each other to keep the individuality of what we believe we need, but look at the common denominators and how we can work together. We're also going to have a day focused on media with the Global Media Network, with several groups that participate in alternative media. They're going to be coming together and talking about how to train the average consumer, the average person, to work together and how they can understand how to put a video together that'll cater to where the social media mentality mind is today in this country. We want to have teach-ins on how to work and overcome some of the discrimination and racism issues. We want to talk about ways that people can make their own alternatives for energy, for economy, and how they can really take it upon themselves to make change. And then we're going to be doing teach-in programs in a style that'll show people how to learn something in one teach-in and then actually teach it so they can take information and spread it on to your neighbor and talking about. This year we're talking about focusing on putting wheels and foundations under these things that we believe now and showing other people how to get involved and how to do it so that all of us can start working on the things we see that need to be changed together. And I yield.
Right. Do you, so what do you guys think that this will, these sorts of things are, how impactful do you guys expect these things will be, and what are, who are you really looking to, sort of reach with these campaigns? Like, is it new members, or is it just more media awareness? What are your guys?
I would say that anybody that feels like the country isn't in the right course right now is somebody that we want to see this, because this is about teaching anybody who feels like there's a problem with this country how they can help start fixing it. That's the media can highlight that or not ignore it, or not highlight that. This isn't for the media, this is for the people, and that's the 100% of the motivation behind it.
And I think also, if I could throw something on top of that, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they don't necessarily sometimes know what the next step is. So we want to be that next step for people and show them how to take it. And on whatever level they're ready to do it on, we want to show them how. Some people are more prone to just protest with signs, or some people want to lock themselves to things. But people want change, and the only way to do that is to obviously get up and be the change, like we were saying earlier. And so what we're hoping to do is just show the other, show people, what the roads are to get there. That there are different roads, and show them some of them how to take it on, how to network. That they're not alone. You are not alone.
Dre, do you want to add anything on top of that?
Well, I mean, look at individuals like Chris and Lisa. I mean, these are, the system is broken, and it needs solutions. And it's platforms like Vonvo that people need to tune in on, because it's forums like this where we can really tackle the issues that matter. I mean, people all over this world are suffering under the weight of this corporate hierarchical structure that is, they talk about all this debt. There's no debt. They own it all. They're destroying and killing us. How many people are dying of cancer? It's because of the products we're using, the gasoline. I mean, it's just insane. And, we just, like Chris said, or Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change. We have to be the change. And that's the root of what most people that I've met at in Occupy Wall Street, are about. And these are individuals that care and they want to create that change. Like Chris says, we have to create that change. It's all of us doing something for our communities. The national gathering, Chris mentions, there's going to be teachings of how to do direct actions, teachings of what's going on, what are the root causes, what are the problems, how do we start to resolve these solutions, and right here, what you're doing, Max, is part of that solution.
Right. That's great. So, I guess really then the next thing that I would ask about is, what message do you want to send to the world and people that watch this video, about what you guys stand for, about what Occupy stands for, and just, what people need to know about your guys' movement. Christian, you want to start?
Me? Okay. We're here for the people. We're here for the people. We're here for each other. To me, mutual aid is activism, and vice versa. Being there for each other, just saying no to our oppressors, saying no, it's not okay. We're not going to take it anymore. We're not, we're just not going to roll over and play dead and just live this carbon copy life of what yeah. We'll keep fighting as long as we have to until things are made the way that they should be. There's equality, real equality in this world.
Christopher, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. I would just that whether it's Occupy, whether it's even got a name or not, the important thing is to understand that you have an opportunity to stand up and voice what you believe and who you are. And I think that our country has an issue with apathy right now. I think that we run and we escape into the movies and the shopping and all these little things. And I think that what's important and the best message that you can say, and even with the name Occupy itself, is to occupy yourself. Don't run from your life anymore. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to be everything you believe you can be. And whether you do it with Occupy, whether you do it with any kind of group, or whether you do it because you've just finally made that choice, stand up for whatever you believe in. Stand up for it, speak out for it, and live for it. That would be my message.
Great. And
occupy your heart. It starts with self. Once you clean your own house and got your own house in order, only then can you really help others. And, just the wonderful people that you meet when you go to these, direct actions, not only Occupy, whatever, most people that you meet, for example, there was, when the encampment in Zuccotti Park was happening, the New York Post, the Daily News was mentioning how there were a bunch of vandals, and rapists, and drug addicts, lowlives in this park, and then if you really went there and really knew what went on, most of the individuals, most of them had more than 2 years of college. Well, we cannot trust our media. People are sleeping. They have rocked us to sleep. Man, the baby is rocking in the cradle. It's individuals like us, like Chris, like Lisa, like you, Max, that, we have to battle our own selves, get our own selves in order, and then reach out to our communities. Things are not good. People are suffering, man, under the weight of debt. The whole system, it's broken. it's broken. People are tired and sick and tired, like you said. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's when you make a decision. Are you going to stand up, stand for something? And I mean, the wonderful people that I've met in Occupy, they've changed my life personally. I mean, if I can tell you, you know, how I met Chris, the situation I was in when I went to Zuccotti Park. It was 5 individuals that came all the way from Michigan to support, you know, the encampment, the cause, the movement. Meeting these people changed my own life. And, you know, there's just so many miracles and wonderful stories. It might sound silly, you know, but I encourage people to get on the internet, contact Occupy Kalamazoo. There's going to be a national gathering, you know, coordinated by Chris and many others. Because, again, this is a leaderless movement. It's not hierarchical. It's you know, it's just amazing and wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add something if I can to that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm one of the organizers of the Thanks. I'm one of the organizers too for Occupy National Gathering, and what I wanted people to know very much so about this is this is for everyone. This is for occupiers everywhere. This is for the social justice people. This is for environmental people. This is for people. You know, it's and you can get involved. You have things you care about. You want them to be discussed. You want them to be addressed. You know, anything you can get in on. On Wednesday nights we have a planning call that we call in. We have people calling in from all over, not even the nation, but even like on the globe now. We're getting global with it. It's awesome. So I just wanted to encourage people that they can empower themselves by getting involved in something like this. You don't have to live in Michigan to be in on this call, and you can, you know, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. And again, like you said, meeting the most wonderful people. It's just an amazing thing. So I'm super excited for it. I just want people to know that they can be a part of it more than just attending if they want. You know, you can really have your voice be heard through this. It's wonderful. And globally, you know, so that's fantastic. And there's going to be, you know, not just direct actions, but there's going to be things to take away from that. It's going to be a moving forward too, like where to go now, what to do next. You know, I think that's important to say too. We're going to arm you with tools to move forward in the direction you want, you know. So yeah, very excited for this. I just want to encourage people to get involved. Because you can have a voice. You do. Use it.
All right, great. So what I was going to say, guys, is that we have another discussion starting shortly. So I want to just thank you each for your time and participating. And we're obviously happy to have you and all your friends back on to discuss this further and, you know, even more specific subjects. And, you know, thank you so much for your time.
Max, thank you. And let me ask you, you know, we haven't even touched the iceberg of what's going on. And for example, you know, fracking. I'd like to be able to come back. I would invite Chris and Lisa because maybe we can come again and start talking about some specific issues and maybe tackling, you know, having some solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
On this.
I mean, 100%. That's definitely what we would, you know, that's exactly what we want to do. So there's no, you know, question there at all.
All right.
Thanks for having us on.
All right. No, you got it.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. No
Thank
problem,
you,
guys.
Max. Thank you, Chris, Lisa.
Yeah,
All right. You got it, guys.
All right.